My name is Sarah, and I am 52 years old. I have never been one to make a big deal out of my birthday. Most years, I barely notice when the day comes around. My husband Mark knows this about me. He always makes a quiet effort, something small, simple, and thoughtful. Last year, for my 52nd birthday, he made me breakfast in bed, complete with coffee just the way I like it. That morning felt peaceful, comfortable, the kind of quiet celebration that suits me perfectly. I wasn't expecting anything more, and honestly, I didn't want anything more. Birthdays to me have always been just another day, a reminder of the years quietly passing by. But then that morning, right after Mark left for a brief phone call, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was a medium-sized package sitting on the welcome mat. No decorations, no card, no ribbon, just a plain brown cardboard box with a printed shipping label. Something about it felt off the moment I saw it. Mark appeared behind me and immediately frowned. He picked up the box and studied the label. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. "Don't open it." I looked at him puzzled. "Why not? Can't you see who it's from?" I asked. Tist. He shook his head slowly. "I don't like this," he said quietly. "Something's not right." I stared at the box. The label didn't have a handwritten note, no familiar script, just a printed tag with my name and address. The return address wasn't one I recognized, and it certainly wasn't from any of my usual contacts. It was just a P.O. box. That made me pause. I wanted to believe it was a simple gift. After all, my parents had mentioned on the phone a day earlier that they were sending me something for my birthday. They had called me just the day before, their voices unusually cheerful, even a bit syrupy sweet, which was rare for them. My mother had sounded almost giddy, which was unlike her. "Oh, sweetheart," she had said, "we sent you a little surprise. It should arrive right on time." I had smiled politely and thanked her, though a part of me knew better than to get my hopes up. My family was not one to show affection easily, especially not to me. I was always the responsible one, the steady one, the one expected to keep things together. My sister, on the other hand, was the golden child. She was pampered, forgiven for every mistake, and always the center of their attention. Still, I wanted to believe that maybe this time things would be different. But standing there with Mark next to me, staring at that box, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. I didn't open it. Instead, I set the box down carefully on the kitchen counter and sat down with a cup of tea Mark made for me. The silence between us was heavy. Mark finally broke it. "Whatever's in that box, it's not just a gift," he said. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Just then my phone rang. It was my mother. "Did it arrive?" she asked in that same overly sweet voice. I forced a smile in my voice and said, "Yes, it did. Thank you. It's beautiful." I lied. I hadn't opened it. Mark glanced at me, his expression serious. I could feel the weight of the box between us, like it was watching, waiting. Half an hour later, there was a knock at the door. This time it wasn't a delivery person. It was the police. And that's when I realized that the package my parents sent for my birthday was not what it seemed at all. The knock at the door shook me out of my uneasy silence. But to truly understand why that package brought the police to my doorstep, you need to understand my family. And more importantly, my relationship with my sister Emma. Emma is 3 years younger than me, and in every way she is the opposite of who I am. Where I am cautious and steady, she is free-spirited and unpredictable. Where I value stability, Emma craves adventure and creativity. Growing up, Emma was always the golden child of our family, not because she was perfect, but because she knew exactly how to get what she wanted, mostly by using her emotions to her advantage. From a young age, it was clear my parents favored Emma. If she cried, they rushed to comfort her. If she made mistakes, they forgave quickly. But when it came to me, the oldest, the responsible one, they expected perfection. They expected me to hold the family together. And if I faltered, the blame was mine alone. I remember one of the earliest moments that set the tone for our relationship. I must have been about 8 years old. There was a beautiful, expensive vase in the hallway of our house, dark green ceramic, something my parents treasured. One afternoon, the vase was shattered on the floor. Emma was standing nearby, tears streaming down her face, trembling. When my mother came rushing, Emma pointed straight at me and said, "She did it." I hadn't touched the vase. I didn't even know it was in danger, but I didn't say a word. I had learned early on that arguing was pointless. The damage was done. I was sent to my room while Emma was comforted and given a popsicle. Over the years, this pattern continued. When Emma ruined my favorite sweater in art class, instead of apologizing, she blamed me for being too sensitive. My mother once again sided with Emma and scolded me for not being more understanding. It was clear to me that in their eyes, Emma was fragile and needed protection, while I was expected to be strong and bear the weight. By the time we were adults, Emma and I were more like two strangers living under the same roof than sisters. We didn't share secrets or dreams, just the occasional polite greeting at family dinners when they happened. Emma never went to college. Instead, she dabbled in a series of odd jobs and side hustles. For a while, she tried selling handmade bath bombs, then essential oils. Later, she launched an Instagram page promoting wellness and lifestyle, which mostly consisted of reposted pictures and photos of her at cafes and beaches. My parents always cheered her on, saying she had a creative soul and was finding her way. I wanted to believe that Emma's ventures would eventually fail, and she'd come back to reality, but that never happened. Somehow, she always managed to fail upward with my parents covering for her every misstep. About a year before the package arrived, my mother called me out of the blue. She wanted to take me out for lunch, just the two of us. I was cautious, but agreed. When I arrived at the restaurant, Emma was already there, sipping a kale smoothie and looking perfectly put together. During lunch, Emma casually asked if she could use my name and address for a business account related to her new art project. "It's just temporary," she said. "I'm between leases, and you're so stable. It would make things easier." I said no. The rejection seemed to offend them. The lunch ended early, and from then on, the cold shoulder began. Christmas invites stopped coming. Passive-aggressive emails from my father appeared. Emma unfollowed me on social media. I told myself I didn't care, but deep down I did. I had hoped my family would respect my boundaries, but instead, they chose to move on without me. That brings us back to the package. The label was the first clue that something was wrong. It wasn't just a gift box. It was a shipment with a professional seal and barcode, something Emma had once mentioned when she showed me stacks of boxes in her apartment. She called her supplier strict, always monitoring who opened what, and now that same supplier had sent a box addressed directly to me. Mark and I exchanged looks. This wasn't just about a birthday gift anymore. When my mother called to check if the package had arrived, I lied and said I had opened it. I even thanked her for the beautiful gift. The truth was, I was terrified to open it. I placed my phone on the counter, recording the conversation without telling her. I needed proof. The next knock at the door was from the police. They had received a report about a suspicious package delivered to my address. I let them in, feeling numb. The officers carefully opened the box. Inside were decorative pieces that looked like art, a certificate of authenticity, and a shipping slip with my name. One officer scanned a QR code and exchanged a glance with his partner. They asked if I knew what the items were, if I knew where they came from. I told them I had no idea, and that my parents had sent them as a gift. When I played the recording of my mother's voice, their expressions grew serious. They told me the shipment matched materials in an ongoing investigation. I was not being charged, but the investigation was active. My heart sank. Later that evening, my mother called again. Her tone changed, no longer syrupy sweet, but sharp and accusing. "How could you?" she demanded. "You told the police it was Emma's. You ruined everything." My father's voice joined in, cold and measured. They had assumed the authorities would seize the items and move on quietly. They never expected the investigation to trace back to them or to me. "You're stronger," my mother said bitterly. "You don't have kids. You can handle it." Her words cut deeper than any slap. I didn't respond. I hung up. That night, Mark brought me tea, sat silently beside me. The box was gone, but the scar it left remained. I realized then that sometimes the people who should protect you are the very ones who hurt you the most. And I knew it was time to be done. The days after the police took the package felt surreal, like my life had been paused, but the weight of what had happened was pressing down heavier than ever. I sat in my quiet kitchen, staring at the empty space on the counter, where that box had sat trying to make sense of everything. The police had told me they were investigating a larger case, something involving wire fraud, identity theft, and business scams. My name, my address, and even a digital signature I never made were tied to it. It was hard to grasp. How could my name be used without my knowledge? How could my family betray me so thoroughly? The detective assigned to the case called me a few days later. He asked if I had ever registered a business under my name or been involved in anything related to art sales or international shipments. I laughed quietly and told him the truth. I once tried to sell a bookshelf online. That was as far as my business ventures went. He didn't laugh. He explained there was a digital trail, contracts, payment, links, emails, all under my name, but clearly forged. The evidence pointed to Emma, the same Emma who had asked me to let her use my name. I realized that box on my birthday wasn't a gift at all. It was a deliberate setup. They had used me to cover their tracks, hoping I would be the one to get caught while they walked free. When I confronted my parents again, their excuses were thin and rehearsed. They claimed ignorance said they thought it was temporary, that they never expected the investigation to go this far. But the truth was clear. They had made me a scapegoat because I was the strong one, the one without children or distractions, the one they believed could handle the fallout. Mark stood by me silently through it all. One evening, as I sat with a cup of tea, he looked at me and said, "They really thought you'd open it. They really did, and that was the moment I realized how calculated it all had been." A week later, the detective called again. Emma had been charged with wire fraud, identity theft, and other related crimes. My parents faced conspiracy charges accused of aiding and abetting the scheme. Emma pled guilty, receiving probation and fines. My parents did the same, hoping to avoid harsher consequences. They never apologized. The day of their hearing, I didn't go. I didn't want to see Emma crying in court or my mother holding her hand as if she were the victim. Instead, I read the transcripts. My name was mentioned 12 times. Not once did they show remorse. Afterward, they asked to meet me. Just my parents, no Emma this time. They wanted to make peace. I showed up late, ordered the most expensive pastry I could find just to make a point. They spoke carefully, trying to downplay everything. My mother said they didn't know I'd be caught up in this. My father said it was temporary and I should understand. They tried to justify using me because I was strong and unburdened. I told them it was betrayal. I told them I was done. That night I blocked their numbers, deleted every contact, erased every trace of them from my life. Not out of spite, but because I had to protect myself. Mark brought me coffee the next morning. We sat quietly, sunlight pouring through the kitchen window. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm done." He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't have to, because sometimes being done is the bravest thing you can do. After the confrontation with my parents, I knew nothing could go back to the way it was. The fragile threads of family ties had been torn beyond repair. The package, the investigation, and their betrayal had stripped away any illusions I once held. In the days that followed, I worked closely with the detective. I provided statements, signed affidavits, and gave every piece of information I had. It was exhausting, emotionally draining, but necessary. I wanted to clear my name and ensure that justice was served. Mark never left my side. He was patient and understanding, always ready with a cup of tea or a comforting word. His quiet strength helped me more than he probably knew. I realized that my family had made a choice, one that forced me to choose between loyalty and self-preservation. I chose myself. One afternoon, I received a call from a lawyer advising me on how to protect myself legally from further entanglement. The paperwork was overwhelming, but I faced it head on. I wasn't the same person who would silently accept blame or carry the burden of others' mistakes. I began to rebuild. I surrounded myself with people who respected my boundaries and supported my growth. I took time for myself, simple pleasures like gardening, reading, and quiet walks. Slowly, I found peace. The hardest lesson I learned was that family does not always mean safety or love. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. And sometimes the greatest act of love is to walk away. I thought about all those birthdays I had spent hoping for love that never came. I realized that love begins with oneself, the courage to say no, to set boundaries, and to choose peace over pain. Mark once said to me, "You're not responsible for their choices. You are responsible for your own happiness." Those words became my mantra. The package that arrived on my birthday was never a gift. It was a test one I passed not by opening the box, but by closing the door on a toxic past. Today, I am free. Free from the lies, the manipulation, and the shadows of a family that chose betrayal over love. I am learning to live for myself one quiet day at a time, and I am stronger for it. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. No matter your age, no matter your past, you deserve peace and respect. Sometimes the people we expect to love us unconditionally are the very ones who cause the deepest wounds. It can be painful to realize that family is not always a source of comfort, but recognizing that truth is the first step toward healing. You are not responsible for the choices others make, nor are you required to carry their burdens. Setting boundaries, saying no, and walking away when necessary are acts of courage and of self-love. If you find yourself in a toxic or harmful relationship, remember you are not alone. It's okay to seek help, to ask for support, and to protect yourself. Life is too short to live weighed down by betrayal or pain. There is freedom in choosing your own happiness. There is strength in choosing yourself. And it's never too late to start over. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you the courage to stand firm, to protect your heart, and to live your life on your own terms, because you deserve that much and more.